Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will learn Tosfos de Ramaschal Hitir Leiler Deisa. Let's begin by looking at the flowchart of the Gemara, so we can see what Tosfos is coming to explain. So here we presented the question of Bibi Bar Abaya. If an individual by mistake placed dough into the oven on Shabbos, he didn't realize, and then afterwards he realized his mistake and he wants to remove it. So the question is, did the Rabbanan permit him to remove the bread from the oven before he comes to Isser Chatas? That will happen if the bread bakes, or not. So let's start with a general outline of Tosfos. In the Gemara we presented this question of Rabbi Bar Abaya, whether the Rabbanan permitted this individual to remove the bread from the oven before it bakes or not. And Tosfos will ask and explain what was the question if there's no Isser to remove bread from the oven. Tosfos will bring a source that indicates that there's no Isser to remove bread from an oven on Shabbos. So let's see Tosfos now in the flowchart. In the Gemara we presented the question of Rabbi Bar Abaya, whether Rabbanan allowed and permitted this individual to remove the bread from the oven before it bakes or not. Says Tosfos, and even though we learned that removing bread and blowing shofar aren't considered a malacha, the Gemara says, Kol malachas aveda le'yisasu yatzu tkiyah shofar r'diyas apas. This pasuk excludes from being aser tkiyah shofar and r'diyas apas and taking bread out of an oven. So what's the question? Did we permit to remove bread from the oven? There's no isser in it. Says Tosfos, from there we excluded it from being awesome in the Torah. The Torah says, Kol malachas aveda le'yisasu yatzu tkiyah shofar r'diyas apas. We excluded from that pasuk belong shofar and r'diyas apas. Shechachma yivein a malacha, because they are a chachma and art, not a malacha. We only excluded them from being awesome in the Torah, but however they are awesome at the Rabbanan. And now Tosfos will bring the source from where we see that r'diyas apas is awesome at the Rabbanan, and he'll say, and also tkiyah shofar is awesome at the Rabbanan, and bring the source for that as well. Tosfos now says, what's the source that we see that r'diyas apas is awesome at the Rabbanan? We learn later on in Masechta Shabbos, it says, in a situation where Chazal permitted an individual to remove bread from the oven for whatever reason over there, it says he shouldn't do it with a spatula, with a tool that's used to remove bread. Rather, he should use a knife. He should do it a little differently. From there we see that there's an isser to remove bread from the oven, and as a result, he needs to do it in a different way than the usual. And then Tosfos continues and says, and also tkiyah shofar is awesome with the Rabbanan. And where do we know this from? She brings the proof as well. It says that we don't hold back children. We don't hold them back from blowing shofar on Rosh Hashanah that falls out on Shabbos because of chinuch. Since there's a chinuch thing for the children to blow shofar, we don't hold them back. And from there we see that there is an isser of shofar. How? Tosfos says the barvarn of what we point out from the teaching says we don't hold back young children, but that means that there's a problem involved, and women we will hold back. So we see that there's an isser also of tkiyah shofar on Shabbos. So to summarize, Tosfos asked, what's the question of Rabbi Bar Abaya, whether a person is permitted to remove bread from the oven or not? There's no isser to remove bread from the oven. It's excluded from the isser in the Torah. And so is tkiyah shofar. Tosfos answers that or explains, it's not really in a question-answer format. Tosfos explains that although there's no isser in the Torah, there is an isser in the Rabbanan, both for r'diyas apas, removing bread from the oven, and for tkiyah shofar, and he brings a source for both of them.